If you've been looking for a new controller, you've definitely seen these options pop up. These are the 3 most popular pro controllers in all of gaming, and today I'm going to be trying all of them. We have the Scuf Reflex, the Dualsense Edge, and the Victrix Pro BFG. And the first one I really want to try is definitely the most popular of them all, the Dualsense Edge. This sells for $200, which is a pretty expensive price, but you also get a ton of features for that price. Most notably, Sony has tackled the decade-old stick drift problem with this controller by allowing the modules to be completely replaceable. So instead of buying an entirely new controller every 6 to 8 months, you can buy a little $20 module and you're good to go. This is currently the only controller on the market that has this option, and it's a pretty big deal. On the rest of this controller, you'll see some other familiar features like paddles and trigger stop. But of course, this is made by Sony, one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, so they put their own twist on each feature. Like the paddles are actually magnetic and they give you 2 different choices, the standard paddle or this other style they call the half dome. The trigger stops can stop at 3 different points, allowing you the fast press advantage for quick shooter games or the long press for dynamic racing games. Thumbstick caps are also swappable between standard, high, and low dome. And one thing I didn't really expect from a big company like Sony is for them to include so many extra accessories, like 2 sets of paddles, 3 sets of thumbsticks, a really nice charging cable, a charging connector lock, and a super clean looking carrying case. So this will actually be my first time ever using this controller on PC because Fortnite just recently added compatibility for it. So now if you set the controller up on your PS5, you can just plug it into PC and it works. If you don't have a PS5 to set it up with though, it is a little more difficult. So let's see how this feels on PC. Bang, let's go. I'm not even gonna lie, for me barely ever playing on this controller, I'm actually really impressed that I managed to kill that guy. What I'm actually using right now is a left paddle jump, a right paddle edit. I'm using the half dome back buttons with the triggers on the fastest possible setting. My left stick is the standard dome cap and my right stick is the tall dome, and I am using it on a wired connection. Like there's a lot of customization on this controller, and the crazy part is that if you use this controller on PS5, there's even way more customization. You can really dive deep into the settings and dead zones and tweak it exactly how you want it to be. But compared to the other 2 controllers that are going to be in this video, the Edge is lacking one thing, which honestly is almost a deal breaker for me. So the Edge only has 2 paddles, and I typically only play controllers with 4 paddles. Not to say that's a bad thing, because 2 paddles is really all you actually need, but I've been playing 4 paddles for years at this point, and while this controller is good, it's not good enough to make me go back to only using 2. So that leads us to the second most popular controller, the Scuf Reflex. I think this one is a little less popular than the Dualsense Edge, not because it's worse, but because it's quite a bit more expensive and it's a third-party company versus Sony themselves. Like there's millions of people that don't even know Scufs exist, and honestly that's a shame because they have some great controllers. Pros across any competitive game you can think of have been using Scufs for the past decade, and the Reflex is their latest and greatest model. It is a PS5 controller, which seems to be the most popular type of controller by far these days, but it's very different compared to the Edge. The only small similarity we'll see is that the Reflex also comes with a carrying case, a charger, and extra parts. Features wise though, this design is completely customizable. I went all out on it and did this color wave look with the blacked out buttons, which I think looks super cool. Another thing Scuf does way better is the actual feel of the thumbsticks with the material and this sort of grippy texture around the edge. These are also swappable tops, but they include domed and concave, which I prefer on the right stick. While the sticks do feel a little more premium, Scufs are known for having some stick drift issues, and there's no easy fix here. If you have an issue, you just have to hope your warranty is still active and ship it in for repair, which can be a nearly month-long process. I personally haven't had any issues yet, but that's definitely an important factor, especially considering the average cost of a Reflex is over $300. I personally paid $340 for this one. But tons of pros consider this price to be worth it, with nearly 50% of Fortnite's pro controller player base using this specific controller. The back of it has 4 remappable paddles placed in a pretty comfortable position, and I have the textured rubber grip on the back, which is great, especially if your hands get sweaty while playing. The Reflex doesn't have adjustable triggers, but you can get what they call mouse clicks, which is an insanely fast trigger. These allow you to have the fastest possible reaction time and are also just incredibly satisfying to press. One last feature is the ability to remove rumbles, which makes the controller much lighter, and most competitive gamers do prefer a lighter controller. I think the lightweight feel makes you feel faster and doesn't cause any fatigue in your wrist if you're playing for a while. While this is a great controller, I do think it has a smaller market compared to the Dualsense Edge, because I see the Edge as more like a casual casuals pro controller. I think it's better suited to someone that plays a lot of games and doesn't get too competitive with them. I think the Reflex, on the other hand, is made for fast-paced competitive gaming where like milliseconds matter and you're playing against the top like 1% of players. Like in Fortnite, yeah, 50% of the pro players use this controller, the Reflex, but at the same time, all of them have earned tens of thousands of dollars from Fortnite tournaments. So them spending upwards of $350 on a new controller is more of an investment. To someone that just plays pubs for fun, the Reflex at its current price point is probably a little overkill, but it is a great controller, so I don't blame you if you still want it. Well, I'd first take a look at the third most popular pro controller, the Victrix Pro BFG. Coming in at $180, this is the cheapest pro PS5 controller on the market, which is kind of crazy, honestly. Like, that's still pretty expensive. But I'll admit, the features are great. Once again, we get a carrying case, a charging cable, and a bunch of extra pieces, including this piece, which is meant for like arcade fighting games. The craziest part about this controller is the ability to swap all of the face pieces. You could put this fight pad button in. If you prefer the Xbox layout with the left thumbstick up top here, you can set it up that way. If you prefer the PlayStation layout, you just take this out, flip it around, and you can have it this way. The thumbsticks are once again swappable, and it comes with quite a few different styles, ranging from low domed caps to tall concave caps. I mean, even the D-pad is swappable. Like, you can have 3 different versions of a D-pad. Even though these sticks completely come out of the controller, and in theory, if you got stick drift, you could just take another one of these modules and plug it back in here and it'd be perfect. But unfortunately, they're not selling these modules separate at this point. So even though it has this cool feature and could probably replicate what the Edge does, as it currently stands, that's not a possibility unless you get a whole new controller. The front and back of the controller has a textured grip on it, which is really nice. And these triggers are also adjustable, but in a different way compared to the Edge. You can have them be the standard long press, or with the flip of this switch, you can have them be basically a mouse click. The Edge's fastest press still goes down a decent bit. The Reflex's press barely goes down at all, and these are like in the middle, which is still incredibly fast. Now, of these 3 controllers, these paddles are definitely my favorite. These are like big textured buttons, which I like a lot more than any sort of paddles feel. The Pro BFG is also a PS5 controller, but it has a bit of a different look and feel to it compared to the other. Like, I would say this more resembles an Xbox controller, but funny enough, it actually works on PS4, PS5, and PC. And even though the build quality of this thing doesn't feel quite as nice as the other 2, for some reason it seems like whenever I play on it, I play better than I do with the other 2. Like, it just feels really comfortable to me. But if you want to know the craziest part about all of this, my main controller isn't even one of these 3 most popular ones. It's actually from a smaller company called Cinch Gaming, and it looks like this. The buttons are a bit different, the sticks are different, it has a grip on it, instant triggers, it's lighter. This has been my main controller for nearly a year now, and because I've enjoyed it so much, I've actually partnered with them, and they now give my viewers a 5% discount if they use code Carter2K at checkout. With it being said, it's not sponsored at all. Actually, I would recommend any of the controllers I've talked about in this video. They're all honestly great controllers, it just depends on what you think you'd like the most. Let's go, bro. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed.